Welcome to the Storyfield. This is a podcast created and sponsored by the Allen Firm. This is Josh Allen, and I'm joined by Micah Petrie. I think you'll agree that life is complex, business is hard, and living a life of faith can feel complicated. We know it's discouraging when movement in your life or business or faith has stopped. Well, you're in the right place to hear some great stories of normal people just like us who will inspire you to move forward in life. So thank you for joining us today. We know you're going to be encouraged. Well, today is going to be fun. We're joined by Scott Randolph, also known to people in and around Stephenville and Waco and Decatur as Skinnies. We'll talk about that, Scott. So Skinnies is the go-to place for, iPhone and computer repair and Apple products. He has 3 locations, but that wasn't always the case. So this is something that Scott has created with some team from scratch. And we're going to find that story out. So Scott, welcome to the Storyfield. We are so glad and honored that you're here today.
Man, thank you for the invite. Whenever you text me and ask me, you can ask my wife. I got real excited. I told her, I'm a big podcast listener. So I told her, I was like, I'm about to be on a podcast. So
this is great.
Thank you guys. And I'm really excited for what y'all doing. I think it's really good. I'm excited to hear all the episodes coming out. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. So you grew up in the Fort Worth, Granbury area. Can you tell us a little bit about, your early years?
Yeah, man, I was born and raised in Fort Worth. My dad, I guess we lived there up until I was about 4th grade or so. We moved to Granbury. My dad wanted a little bit lighter of a childhood instead of being in the city. Wanted to be somewhere out a little more calm. So I lived there for a while and then moved to Granbury. Went to Granbury High School, graduated, and ended up in Stephenville, Texas.
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to find out. So what I love about your story, Scott, is like you did not build these businesses coming from a college degree or higher degree. And I love that. So tell us about your brief college experience and then kind of what was going through your mind about why it wasn't for you.
So my dad, he was a little different than most. He was an entrepreneur. We kind of grew up, honestly, I kind of grew up thinking that, when you become an adult, you just start a business. That's just what I knew. So he went to college for about the same amount of time. He went to college for about a semester. And then he got pegged by one of his professors at college to move over to Iran to work on computers. Really big life change for him. But that's kind of where he found his love for computers and everything. But with that being said, we grew up knowing that college, it definitely is an option. And, I have 2 boys. I'm going to, definitely tell them, hey, you need to go to college if you want. But, we kind of grew up as, not, knowing that you can still make it without college. My dad was very honest with me too. He said, if you don't build your own business or you don't do this, without college, your life might be a little bit harder. So, you have to kind of face those facts as well. But no, he told me he would pay for a semester of college. And if I liked it, after a semester, I'd know if I want to stay. I didn't like it. So after a semester, I quit. And I was working full time, and it's funny because where I was working, they were pretty strict. And I had my finals one day, and I told them that I had them coming up, and I couldn't get off work. So that was kind of the last straw. I just, flunked out of college. But yeah, so I kind of grew up just, I guess, in the entrepreneurial mindset. And for me, just college, it didn't line up with it. It's interesting.
So did you kind of have your mind made up secretly going into that one semester? You're like, I'm just going to do this and try it.
I think so, and whenever I quit and moved from Fort Worth, because after I graduated from high school in Granbury, I moved to Fort Worth, lived downtown and everything. And after I quit work there, I was moving here to Stephenville to be, my brother was living here, and I got, clicked in with a group of guys in a church group here. And I lied to myself and said, I'll go back to school there. I don't know what I want to do just yet, so I'll do that. And of course, I never went.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, deep in the back of my head, I knew I was never going to go. Both my parents, they didn't go to college. And my dad he was very successful in his businesses. So, I just kind of saw that as hey, to be successful, you don't really have to.
Yeah. That's great. I'm so encouraged just to hear that. Well, let me ask you about your dad. So I know you've lost him a few years ago, and
Yeah.
just going to make sure that we talked in advance. I can make sure we can talk about this, but I think you could really
Right.
encourage a lot of people. So tell us about your dad and what happened there, and kind of walk us through some of this.
Man, my dad, I feel like like most dads in the 80s and 90s, he was a smoker and started smoking probably when he was 14 or 15, I think. I mean, he started smoking early, and it caught up to him. He died of lung cancer about 10 years ago, and obviously it was a big deal. It was a big shock. I was at a pretty impressionable time in my life. I was about 24. I was very just zealous for life, zealous for God. Just I was out living my life, so it was a big deal. But yeah, it actually, as crazy as it sounds, it was probably there's no easy way to put it, but it's probably the best way to lose somebody. I mean, we knew how much time we had with them, and my parents, they had a good relationship, but like any marriage, they had, ups and downs and everything. But the last 2 years they got just incredibly close, and it was really cool to see. But yeah, it was, if anyone's been through cancer, they know it's just a roller coaster. I mean, we literally threw a celebration because doctors told him he beat it and it was in remission. And he went in for a scan about a month later, and the doctor came in and said, "You have 2 days and 2 weeks to live." And I mean, we thought it was done. And I mean, everyone's crushed. And 2 weeks to that day, he died. So it was rough, man. And honestly, I grew really close at that point with God, with brothers, with my future wife, who, we were talking and kind of dating at the time. So it really, in those situations, I feel like you have two directions to go. Either you can let it, tear you apart, and you can spiral and just, because being a dad, like any son and dad, you're close, I mean, he's the guy I would call for any and all advice. And so to lose that, it was a big deal, but, I kind of chose to go the other way with that, and, just kind of buckled down and started living my life. And, it's been good. It's been really good.
So what would you tell somebody like who is walking through that right now? Like, what kind of encouragement can you give them? I mean, something that really helped you, or any kind of encouragement?
Really, I mean, anything I could say is, it just gets better. It passes. There'll always be, that little spot that's empty, but it does get better. And my life only got better. And yeah, I mean, that's the main thing, because during it, you just think like, this is never going to stop. I'm always just going to, but it does.
Yeah.
And
the storm passes.
The storm passes. You just start remembering the good stuff. And, really, I mean, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for talking about that. I appreciate that.
So I know your pops was a entrepreneur, business type person, and I'm just interested in, like, was he able to relay lessons or tips to you? Because I'm assuming that ideas of a business that you were going to start or you were going to do something were already in motion before he passed.
Right.
So can you just kind of give us some of those of what he told down to you?
Of course. Yeah. Really, three things I've kind of learned from him. And two are ones he told me to do, and one is one that I saw him do wrong that I didn't want to do. He always told me to treat, of course, as simple as it sounds, treat people like you want to be treated. And that's kind of the main thing we do here at Skinny's. And we don't have any sales goals. I don't like setting them because I don't like people feeling sold. Our goal is just to treat people right. And I kind of always stand by that. And kind of a quote we always go by up here is, at the end of the day, people won't remember, how much money they spent or what happened. And they always remember how they're treated. And so, and I don't know who said that. I know it's a famous person, but I don't know it. But that's one of the things he really ingrained in me. It's like, and he always would say, imagine your grandma's coming in and your grandma's needing help. Treat the customer like you would, your mom, your dad, your grandma. And then also, one thing he really drilled home was, don't be the cheap guy. That's as simple as it sounds. A lot of people go into business and they think, okay, I'm going to come into this industry and I'm going to undercut everybody. I'm going to be the cheapest. Man, figure out what you're going to do. Be the quality guy. Don't be the cheapest, because once you're the cheapest, you can't go back up. You get a name for being the guy that beats every price in town. You can't get out of that. And the third thing that I saw him, honestly, as bad as it sounds, do wrong was, work was his complete life. And I think as an entrepreneur and a business owner, it's so easy to let that become your life. There were many nights that my dad wouldn't come home. He would just sleep at the office because he was just, programming all night. And, his home life, we definitely felt that, there were so many times where, me and my brother didn't know where dad was. And, my mom would be like, oh, he's spending the night at the office tonight. So that's one of the things I've made a rule is whenever we close, man, I lock up and go home. Those repairs can wait. Customers might get a little flustered that, the repair is half a day longer than it was supposed to. But at the end of the day, you got to be there for your wife and your kids. And that's more important to me. And with that being said, there's very few days that I go home and things are completed. So it just kind of works out. So.
Well, man, what great lessons. Oh my goodness. Those three things learning going into it. I mean, I know in family it's extremely important for you, and you have two young boys, and I know every time I see you with them, it just makes me smile because I know you're just in your like happy place.
Yeah. And when my dad died, like I said, it was kind of I feel like it was the most beautiful way to go because, we had time with him. But, when he was dying, he slipped into about a 2-day coma, and, we didn't know if we were going to talk to him again. We didn't know what was going to happen. He was on hospice at that point. And his last day he was alive, he actually was able to wake up. He kind of came to, and he was able to tell us that he loved us. And it sounds real cliche, but he was in tears, and he just said, I wish I spent more time with y'all. And he was there. He was a dad that, he was a little league coach. He was always there. But for the most part, man, I mean, work ran his life. And I'm not just talking about, being home and thinking about it. Up on Saturdays, he's back at the office. Friday night, he's spending the night at the office. At the end of it, man, that doesn't matter. His, the business died with him, and just like, what was it for? So you got to find that balance. You just have to. And I get home, and man, my little 3-year-old, he's just pumped to see me. And you got to be present for him.
Wow, what lessons? I mean, like what good priorities, what lessons at the end? What he wanted was more time. So it's just a good reminder for all of us who are young in this. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Take us on the journey from after high school. You're working in Fort Worth, like up to the point you're like, it's time to start a business. Like, what were you doing, and how did that happen?
Man, I when I moved to Steveville, I kind of moved here. Kind of started over, of course, at 19, you're not really starting over, you're just starting a different life. I moved here. One of the cool things that I like about, how Skinny started was, a lot of people think that, okay, I want to start a business. I need to come up with a business plan, and you need to get funding, all this stuff. Man, it didn't start like that. It started very, I don't know, very easily. Well, I say that, but it was a lot of work. But I worked full time. I worked here in town at just a supply house, like sold HVAC, electrical stuff. I worked there full time, but what really made the business take off is, man, I got a ton of connections there. it's just a place where you see everyone in town. And, from that, I was able to just grow my network. I would say I was 25 when I started the business. Yeah. So for about, 6 years or so, I was just here working. I knew I wanted to start my own business. At that point, I didn't know what. I had a passion for photography. I started doing that, and I liked it a whole lot. Started doing photography, videography, and I knew I wanted to do something on my own. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a go at photography, and so that was the original plan. And so I started fixing phones on the side just to kind of support that. And so at about 25, I just took a big fat leap, and said, if I'm going to make a run at it, I'm going to do it now. I'm young, I've got energy, let's just do this. And I was married, and my wife just bought a house, we're remodeling. Our life was just chaos, and but I would work full time from 8 to 5:30. I'd come home, I would remodel our house for about 2 hours or so. I would eat dinner, and then about 9-10 o'clock, I would start editing pictures all night, go to sleep about 2 o'clock, wake up, do it again. I did that for about a year. Uh, it was a rough year, but it paid off. But during that, at some point, how I started phones, man, sorry, this might be a long story, but I'm trying to keep it short.
No, that's what we want to know.
Okay.
Don't keep it short. That's what we want.
Okay. Where the phones came in, it was kind of random, but I kind of grew up, like I said, in a computer household. My dad, that's what he did. He wrote computer software. He was, computer engineer. So it kind of came just second nature. We, to take things apart, it was just, something we did. It was fun. But I was trying to figure out, hey, how can I make some money on the side? So, maybe I can cut away from my full-time job and support photography if it doesn't take off the way I want it to. Because I don't personally like debt. I didn't want to try to take a small business loan. Didn't want to go to my mom and say, hey, can I have some money to start a business? I don't like that. I'm very much an individual. I want to make it on my own. And so a guy was fixing phones here in town, didn't do it anymore. And he's a great guy. But he was fixing phones and fixed a coworker's phone at Smith Supply Farm. And when he got there, I saw the quality, and it was great. And it was a little shady. I mean, it all around, it wasn't a good experience for Jason, the guy that was getting his phone fixed. And I was just like, man, there's got to be a different, this guy's doing this, but every single person has a cell phone in their pocket. And I mean, I currently had a broken screen, like everyone had broken phones. Yeah. So there's got to be a better way. So that night I actually went home, and when my wife went to sleep and I was editing pictures, I just ordered, to spend about probably $200 to $300 and ordered a bunch of tools, and told her when I woke up, I was like, hey, I bought a bunch of tools. I think I'm gonna start fixing phones. She was like, what are you talking about? I was like, just go with me here. And so my wife's phone was the first one I ever took apart, and it laid there apart for about 2 days, and she was not happy. But I kept working on them, and within about a month, I had a logo, I had a Facebook page, and I was getting customers. And I started off as legit as I could look with my Facebook page, my logo, but it became to where I was working full time, going home, remodeling, working on pictures, and then people were dropping off phones. We're currently at my brother's house because we're remodeling our house, but I was having people drop off phones at his house overnight, and I had to run out with a clipboard, take their phone, work on it, and deliver it to them the next morning. I mean, it looked. The neighbors are probably wondering what was going on. It didn't look like anything probably legal was happening.
Right.
But those were kind of the beginnings of Skinnies. It was on my brother's kitchen table because we're, like I said, in the middle of remodeling a house. And that quickly took off. There was definitely a need in Stephenville for that. We're a town of 17,000 people with like 40 in the county and 10,000 people at a college. I mean, the customers are there, and it just took off like wildfire. After 6 months.
Yeah. So at what point did you drop off the photography then? I mean, was there just a considerable, like, I can't do this anymore?
There definitely was. I kept holding on to photography for a little bit because I started the wedding circuit, which is a beat down, but it's good money. I started that, and that kind of helped fund. At that point, I realized, okay, Skinnies is going to be, that's going to be where I need to put my attention. And so from there, I just started using photography to fund that. And so when I started Skinnies, I worked probably full time still at my job for about 6 months, and then I got a part-time job, so I could have more time to fix phones. And then after about 3 to 4 months of that, I had to quit and just do Skinnies full time. So really, the lesson I like to tell people is it was baby steps, because there's obviously a lot of risk in starting your own business. I mean, your butt's on the line, your money's on the line. There's a lot, but it can be a slow progression. It doesn't have to be overnight where you spend 100 grand and open up a storefront. I started Skinnies with about $500, but you just have to be willing to put in the work and just know that, hey, at the beginning, it might not look pretty. You might be working a couple jobs, you might be working late at night, but it pays off. So yeah, about 3 months after quitting my full-time job, went part-time, and man, Skinnies just took off. And at that point, I started tapering off photography.
So, man, and you did this with zero debt, just steps into it.
Yeah. Our day one, the storefront, after about working out of my house for a few months when I started Skinnies, it was apparent that I needed a storefront because I wanted to be legitimate. And I'm a people person. I don't like working at home. So, picking up a device and then working on it from home or meeting somebody at Starbucks, it got weird. And I didn't like that. I didn't want that to be, my business. I wanted it to be, we're going to be ingrained in Stephenville. So I found a spot on the square. And honestly, I look back at day one pictures and really year one pictures, and it was ugly, man. I spent whatever money we had to paint and then put up some shelving, and then I churned out phones. And, really the first year I just kind of was in really day one mindset to where any money I made, I'd save a little bit of it or so, but I would mainly be pumping it into the store to get it going. Now it looks a lot better now. We're about almost 9 years in, and it's, unrecognizable. It was ugly.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful now. I mean, for all who's listening and have seen it, then get online and see it. It's just beautiful. Y'all have done a beautiful job. And I know your brother has done a lot of building, right, and kind of some creative stuff as well.
Yeah. And that's kind of I had to kind of take a step back and realize that, okay, I might be good at running the business, but I wasn't good at seeing, what image we wanted to put forward. Or my brother, he worked in remodeling, and, he designed closets, and he's worked on custom homes. I mean, he has that eye. So it worked out perfectly. He got laid off by FMC here in town. He was about to have a baby, and he called me like at 6 a.m. when he got laid off, and he was like, "Hey, man." And I mean, Henry was due like in 6 months or so, or 3 or 4 months. And he was like, "I hate to do this, but do you have any positions?" And I was like, "Of course, like, you're not going to not hire your brother." I mean, so he's worked for me for about 6 years now. And he's the reason why we look like the way we do. He came in and, he worked for me for a little while, just kind of figuring out what we wanted to do. And then finally we just kind of realized his knack, and he became a brand manager, and I just gave him control. Just said, "Man, make this look the way you want it to look." And he went with it. So you have to realize your strengths and weaknesses. And I can keep a business profitable, but I can't, keep it looking super, stylish and fancy.
And that's really, I mean, it's wise. Like the lessons you've learned and what you were saying is so wise and so far beyond in years. But like, what have you noticed about like the team members involved? And he's a good example of like, the different roles and how the different people are important in play to make, to get it to where you've been today.
Yeah. And, you kind of figure out, honestly, the first 3 years of Skinny was, it was a big growing point for me. You go through a lot of weird stuff in your life. I feel like when you're a young entrepreneur and you have a successful business, it goes to your head. It changed me, not for the, it didn't, it, I went through a pretty strong identity crisis, honestly. And I'm glad I went through it because it changed me. And, it honestly made me a man instead of just a little boy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But, when you start out, you think this is my baby. Only I can do everything. Only I know how to do this. It's just all me, me, me. And finally, like I said, it took me probably about 3 years to realize that maybe I don't know every single answer. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't, maybe I can't make this place look the way it needs to be and make it. So you have to be able to hand the reins over to people and trust them. And the second you do that, man, the second I did that, man, our business took off. I mean, it really did. And it's just funny.
So was there, besides your brother and the branding,
Mhm.
was there other employees already going at that time, or was there a couple key people that really helped ignite it?
At that point, we just had a couple part-timers. There's nothing crazy. Adam was my first real full-timer. But we got a couple people in, like Graham. He came in and helped build our computer side. And then Alexia came, and I've got a girl now, Katie, who runs our computers. That's just she's great. And there's definitely been key people that have come in and just grown different aspects of the business. I hired a girl that had worked full time at Best Buy, and she came in and was like, "Hey, listen, we need to change all this with our our inventory and our products and how we display them." So you just have to be willing to take people's advice. And I try to hire people that I know can just take ideas and run, and I don't have to baby them. Because really, when you're running a business, you don't have time to baby people. You know that. You need people to come in, be confident, and be like, "I'm going to do this, and this is how it's going to work." And you say, "Okay, cool. I will pay you to do that. Let's get it done." So, that's been the main thing. Is we've always hired very competent and just enthusiastic people.
Yeah. But you really wouldn't have known unless you kind of went through, or you wouldn't be able to do that unless you kind of went through that
Yeah,
identity crisis of like, you know, I'm trying to do it all. I mean, at a certain point, that was just a good part of the plan for you.
yeah, for real. It really was. And I mean, every single thing that's happened in business in my life has happened for a reason, and it's only just made me personally stronger, my relationship with my wife and my kids stronger, and the store stronger. So I mean, you go through a lot of crazy ups and downs in the first few years of business, but man, it all happens for a reason, as cliche as it sounds. And it's always for the better. It really is.
It's easy looking back, though. I would say from the perspective looking back, saying that it was for the better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will agree
Right.
with that 100%. But is there a few like really big challenges that jump off the page, in those few startup years that, man, this was a big one, this is a big challenge, and how'd you get through them?
Let me think on
Besides
that
every
one.
day, yeah. Besides like every day,
Yeah. Really, I mean, in the first couple of years, I think for me, it was figuring out if I wanted to grow or not. Think I think once you have your business, if you're successful in the first year or two, your first instinct is, I need to copy this. I need to do another store. And I did that. And I did it. Well, I did it, it wasn't we did like a franchise type deal. But honestly, if I were to go back, I would have probably put that on hold and just kept focusing on the store. It's so easy to, I think the rush of opening a store and seeing it grow and seeing it become profitable, you just get caught up in that and you want that rush again. So you're like, I got to do it again. I need to find another town that needs this and I need to do that. When really, you honestly, your time is better spent focusing on what you built and seeing how you can make it better and stronger and more relevant in the town. And so we only have 2 other locations. So we've got 3 total. One is fully ours. The other is just a franchise. He pays us monthly. So really, I'm just managing 2 stores, and for me, that's enough. I really don't want to do more. If for some reason an incredible opportunity comes up, I'll talk about it. But for me, I think this is as much as I can do before I start sacrificing aspects of my life, like my personal time, my family time, all that. I'm
Yeah.
perfect right now.
Well, it's no, s-
Or, my time is perfect.
well, it's no small store you opened in your second location, which is
Yeah.
your third location, the non-franchise one, which is in Waco.
Yeah.
So tell us about how did that opportunity come up and, why Waco? Take us behind the scene on all
Yeah.
this.
Well, I think the cool thing about Skinny's is I feel like it's always been built around people. And there's a guy, is a buddy of mine, Jeremy, who worked at AT&T for like 9 years here in town. He always was awesome when I went in. His customer service is great. He's a smart guy. He's quick. And I always joked with him, like, hey man, if you want to come work for me, you can manage one of my stores. Let's open one up. It was a joke for years. And then finally one day he texted me, and he's living in Fort Worth at the time. He moved from Stephenville. He texted me. He's like, hey man, are you joking or are you serious? And I said, man, if you wanted to come on board, I'm serious. Like I would do that, because I just, I was confident that he could do it. And about a week later, he came to Stephenville. We talked, and he was wanting to move to Waco. That's where his wife's family is from. Waco was booming. It is booming at the time. And I told him, I was like, I'm not looking to grow, but if you're looking, I would do it. And so we just did it. It worked out. Found a cool place in downtown. It's a beautiful building. Waco's just growing leaps and bounds. It's crazy right now. And so,
So how long
just
did that take, Scott, from like the time you're like, we're going to do that to where you actually found your building? And
it
then,
took about a year and a half. So he came to work for me here in Stephenville for about 6 months, honestly, it was a year. Just learning the ins and outs, kind of, shadowed me a lot to see what I do. And then we found a spot and remodeled it and opened it up June of 2019. And so yeah, he's been working for me for about 3 years now.
Did you ask Chip and Joanna Gaines before you went into Waco where you needed to be? No?
Unfortunately, I didn't.
Okay,
I
I'm just
probably
making
should have.
sure, because they own like half of Waco now or something like that.
They do. And we found a sweet spot, and actually right across the road from us, they're about to, Chip and Joanna bought a really beautiful building and they're turning it into a hotel. So we're about to be across the street from the Magnolia Hotel, which will be interesting. I imagine our taxes are going to go crazy, but
sorry.
yeah, there's always that little bit of hope of maybe one day they'll walk in and
Have you
tweet about us.
met him yet? So y'all haven't met him yet. You're Jeremy.
No, I haven't. They're really cool. They're obviously pretty big celebrities, but from what I hear, they're all over Waco all the time, just going to little things. I know a guy that owns a business there. He said he was at the farmer's market one morning, and a lady tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, can you take our picture?" And he turned around as Joanna Gaines and the kids, and he was just kind of like, "Yeah." And he took her picture with her phone, and she was like, "All right, thank you," and then just walked off.
So Scott, between the two stores, like how are you able to like manage between the two? Like what's your schedule like? Are you there often or you're not? How's it working?
Yeah. So, man, Stephenville, I'm here. I'm here pretty much every day. I go to Waco once a week. Usually it's a Tuesday or Thursday, because Wednesday's church, and then Mondays and Fridays are crazy for us. So yeah, I'm there once a week, and really it is hard to manage it when you're not there. But luckily, I've got Jeremy, who does a killer job, and we just hired a girl that I honestly didn't think she would work for us. She's way overqualified. She runs her own jewelry business like that, but it's all online. So I kind of threw out a message to her on Instagram. I was like, "Hey, would you work for us?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'd like to chat." So I called her, and she works for us now, and she's slowly becoming our rep out there that'll go around and drum up business and introduce, because a lot of it, with being an owner, as it's just getting your name out there, getting your face out there. And honestly, in our industry, it's really been kind of a shady industry. They've, phone repair shops have popped up everywhere, and I don't know why, but they've just been kind of like little weird hole in the walls and shopping centers, and you don't really know what's going on, and all the accessories are fake. It's really strange, and we've kind of always tried to fight that. We want it to be a good experience when you step in the door. All the stuff that we sell is all all new. I think there's no fake knockoffs from China.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go into that for forever, but really, she's been good about just putting a face to our name and getting ourselves out there. Because really, even just one day a week, I can't do that, even though I try.
Yes. So how has that worked? So from zero, really brand recognition in Waco to where you're at now, like what have you seen as far as like the marketing? What have you done that has worked the best that you've noticed?
Really, starting Waco has been a lot more difficult than Stephenville. And I figured it would be, but I just didn't know how difficult. With Stephenville, it was a slow growth. People knew me. And people started to know the name Skinnies. Waco, man, there's 6 or 7 other repair shops in town. No one knew me. I didn't know my way around Waco. I didn't know where anything was. I was going in completely blind. So it was night and day. Stephenville, man, we were profitable day 3. We started real slow. Waco, we didn't have that luxury. I couldn't go in and just kind of sit in a tiny space, me, myself, I had to pay somebody to be there. He needed decent money and everything's more expensive there. So it was 10 times more difficult than Stephenville. And that's a lot of the reason why I won't do another store, just because it took a lot of energy out of all of us, took a lot of attention. The Stephenville store suffered a little bit just because I was there all the time trying to get it going. So really, I would do it again. I really would. I would do it again if I didn't have another store. Let me say that. Like, I'm glad we did it, but it was tremendously more difficult than Stephenville.
Yeah, because you're going from no recognition to some. But what worked though? What worked to get your name out?
Yeah, what's worked is, we've done quite a bit of Google marketing, but really what's worked and what always works is just word of mouth. And that takes the longest. And it's real frustrating when you're in the weeds of it and you're just trying to get people in that door to be like, man, word of mouth is going to come. You treat the 2 customers that come in that day, you go above and beyond, and you make their experience just amazing. And it's going to feel like I'm going to go bankrupt. It comes around. And really, it took about a year of that, of just, days where I look at the, our P&L for the day or whatever, and I would look at Stephenville and be like, man, we did, 30 to 35 repairs. That's awesome. I look at Waco and I'm sitting on 1 repair with $100 for the day. It's like, well, that hurts, and the next day you have a big old 0, I mean, and those days, those are big gut check days, and those are, those are hard. But yeah, word of mouth is king. And if you treat people right, they tell every single person. And, we started getting those people coming in and said, hey, so-and-so told me about y'all. Hey, so-and-so told me about me. And, we could throw out Instagram and Google ads until we lost every bit of money or every dollar we had, but they didn't do very much. So,
yeah. So you really boiled it down to what's most important. And it's the service, treating people like you want to be treated, and they'll start. But that has to be some gut check days of like, I'm going to pull the plug if this doesn't start getting more than $100 a day every once in a while, like that's got to be terrifying.
Honestly, I had one of those days where I just broke down, and I was on the couch. I still remember it. It was, sitting there talking to my wife, and I was just looking at our bank account just dwindling. And, it's hard to see after being, established in Stephenville for 5, 6, 7 years, see, your money just being drained out from Waco, and I was getting really worried. I had a night where I just broke down and I was crying, and I was, my wife is she's amazing. She stepped up to the plate and just, supported me and, encouraged me and everything. And, I was to the point where I was thinking about, well, let me see if I can sell my share of Decatur to somebody, like, let's see what we can do. Let's see if Jeremy in Waco if he wants to have the shop, what to save Stephenville and save our business. And, the next month, COVID-19 hit.
Oh.
And, and it was just it was just like, okay, all right. But And it was just kind of a 1-2 punch. And, we were essential. So we were able to stay open. And as bad as it sounds, it was one of the better things to happen to Waco, because at that point, everyone was having to work from home. So we started getting people coming in with computers and phones and needing them fixed. We cut our hours down, but we were still staying busy. It was crazy. And it really changed our business. I stopped looking at our bank account, and I started just focusing on people. And, I knew we couldn't lose anybody. We took all the government help we could, the payroll protection plan and all that good stuff. It helped keep us afloat during all of it. And honestly, with COVID, it really helped us kind of change a lot of things about skates and helped change my mindset from just sitting there and looking at money 24/7 to looking at, how can we help people? How can we stay safe? How can I keep my employees safe? And it became again about the employees when, it had been just all about the money for a good year starting Waco. So
thanks for sharing that, Scott, because I think it's helpful to see somebody who it can, from the outside looking in, you might think, man, a business owner, they multiple locations, and they just don't see the side of you sitting on the couch thinking, I don't know if this is going to make it, and breaking down, and that's real. That's real for business owners and entrepreneurs and startups. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
But also, let's talk a little bit about COVID. You said it really accelerated and changed your views on a lot of things and really changed the business for the better. Did you have a good year overall?
Overall, yeah. I wouldn't say we made any more money than we did in, 2019. We stayed about the same. And really, I'm very thankful because, I know lots of businesses that have had to shut down or go to limited hours. I was just talking to a business owner in Waco who owns a clothing store and like 3 other restaurants. He said his revenue is down 90%. I can't imagine that. I just can't. So really, it's been good for us. With Skinnies, we've kind of, we started up kind of in the middle of a recession, and then we, went through COVID. So luckily, and you have to sit back and look at, when you're starting a business, okay, what if life throws curveballs? Because so far I've been in business 9 years, and we've had to, and COVID's a pretty heavy curveball. You got to make sure you can weather it. During it, I didn't have to let anybody go. Everyone stayed. Like I said, I consulted my CPA. We took the payroll protection deal, and that was able to really help us and helped all my employees because everyone's on edge. They didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know if they're going to have a job. I told them day one we're having shutdowns. We're able to stay open. I'm going to do whatever it takes. We're keeping everyone here. I told everybody, we're just going to need to buckle down, not spend a lot of money on things. Let's be mindful and let's all ride this out together. And it's been great. Really, as crazy as it sounds, it's been a crazy year, but the business it's been good. And we've been able to kind of grow as a business in the weirdest ways.
And that's what, the more you kind of think about it and read on some of the stuff, like a lot of these things are really accelerators for certain things and really make you get innovative, which it sounds like you guys did not put the brakes on and just die. You used it as an opportunity to change and grow and do better.
Yeah. And we were just talking about this the other day. I'm just always amazed how businesses kind of pivot when things like this happen. And that's the cool thing about entrepreneurs and just people that do this, people that are listening that have minds like that. You don't just lay over and die, it's just, you just figure out what to do and you go with it. Anybody that can run their own business or, start something from scratch or whatever, you have that in you to be like, all right, we need to figure out how to make this work. So I was blown away just by all the different ways businesses really just took COVID and ran with it and made the best out of it. And it's so cool. It really is. Of course, there's been terrible, tragic stories about it. It's not a good topic, but the small business community has really been just awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you. That's an encouragement to all entrepreneurs and people who are listening who are maybe in that stage of what do I do? Do I keep going? Do I not? So
You have to keep going. I don't know.
Well, I'm asking just a couple more things. I'm really just grateful for the time, Scott. What is one of the hardest things to repair, throughout your years? Or what's giving you what's giving you the most trouble as far as
MacBooks can be interesting. Apple's really good about, so that, when the repair industry started growing, Apple kind of pivoted and started doing their own repairs, which means they've kind of made them a little bit more repairable because they want to do it and they want to make money. So Apple is really good. Honestly, Motorola are the worst ones to repair. I don't know. It's like you have to just hit that thing with a hammer and just break it all apart and then just rebuild it. So I would say anything Motorola, if you're ever wanting to tear a phone apart and fix one, don't touch it. You're gonna hate it.
Yeah, I was about to say that's got to be hard to hit somebody's phone with a hammer. And that's kind of like life. Like, yeah, we get hit hard, but it's ultimate for good because it gets rebuilt.
Yeah, exactly.
What else? What other services do you guys offer besides phone repair and computer repair?
Yeah, that's about it, really. And
okay.
We've tried, and we tried doing like on-site computer stuff, and you gotta have to know what you're good and not good at, and we went strong with that. Graham wanted to start that, wanted to start servicing businesses, and we still do a little bit where we'll send a tech on site, but you have to kind of look and see really what your strong suits are. And man, everyone and their grandma uses Steve Jobs quotes. So I usually don't like to use them because I think it's very cliche. But one of the I feel like one of the smartest things he ever said was, he said, I'm not proud of, he's like, I'm proud of what we do, but I'm prouder of what we don't do. You have to realize what you're good at and what you have people for to do. I didn't want to just do 30 things crappy, I'd rather do one or two things just perfect. So really we just do phone, computer repair, tablet repair, a little on-site work, but that's it.
And do you sell products as well, Scott?
Yeah, we sell products. What's really cool is we built a good enough brand and a name to get some really cool and big names in. So we kind of pride ourselves in what we carry and a lot of unique stuff we carry. Honestly, our product line has gone down a little bit with COVID because some of the people we rep, they're hurting too. It's really weird, but we've got some accessories, like one's called Nomad. They're like a leather phone case, and they're only in like Best Buys, Walmart's. No, they're not in Walmart. They're in Best Buys. They're all in big box stores, and a couple of little shops. And one's called Pila. They're from Canada. They're the first ever like fully compostable phone case, and we're the first one in the U.S. to carry them.
Wow!
And now they're everywhere in the U.S. It's after we built the team, built the name, built the brand, it only has made us grow in different, really cool ways.
Yeah, man, that's great. So, just so I don't forget, the best way for people to connect with Skinnies and really find y'all and get some information, especially if you're not in town or not in Waco, where do they need to go?
Instagram. We're really active on Instagram, or also just our website, skinniesrepairshop.com.
Okay.
You can contact all three stores, goes to, submit repair requests, all that. But yeah, we're pretty active on social media. Been a little less active during COVID. Our energies kind of shifted a little bit, but we're still there.
Okay, great. Okay, how do you stay fresh, Scott, as far as like learning? Because I really feel like you just gave us a business degree. You really have just like staying in your lane, the right people, how to market. Where do you get your information from? I mean, where are you learning?
Honestly, I'm probably one of the worst business owners because I don't do much like continuing ed. I don't know. Man, honestly, as crazy as it sounds, like for me to stay fresh, I've got to get out of the business owner mindset. And I know it sounds counterproductive, but man, I feel like I grow more and I'm a lot fresher, if that's the correct way to say it. If I just go spend time with friends, go camping, go on vacations. You got to, for me, I just have to keep my mind just kind of, I don't know, at ease and fresh. And of course, there are a couple of different business owners that, that I chat with. You're one of them,
Mm-hmm.
that, we kind of throw ideas off each other.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I feel like I had a little bit more of an upper hand with my dad in my raising, because he, like I said, we grew up just thinking you're going to own a business. Like, that's just what I thought. And so I feel like, honestly, with him, my life was just a long lesson. One of the coolest things before he died, when he knew that, it was happening, we went and sat down at a little pub in Fort Worth, and he just gave me a life lesson for like 3 hours. He just told me everything, and it was awesome, and it was really special to me. But for me, honestly, I feel like I just keep my mind fresh and my soul fresh. I go to church twice a week. We have an amazing just support group, and I've got amazing brothers at church that, when I'm there and I'm able to kind of just put work aside, put business aside, that's where I grow the most, and I can come back fresh.
Yeah. And that was kind of one of the last things I wanted to touch on before we end today is, how you're a man of faith, and I know a lot of your great brothers, and I know you. How have you seen the faith work in your business? Like, how have you kind of brought that into the business? Is there any big ways that you're like, man, this is how we've done it?
It's kind of hard to explain, I mean, I just try to present myself to my employees as, I want them to see me as a, man of faith and, a man of Christ. But honestly, for a while, they don't know what church I go to. They don't know if I go to church. I don't like that to be something, I guess I put into it too much, but obviously I put God in my business a lot, and just the way we treat people. And with that, obviously questions come like, hey, what do you do? What do you go to church? And all this stuff. But I feel like it's just kind of subtle, man. We just love on people. And, I think a lot of people, they need Christ, and I've always wanted to be one where I want them to see my life and know that, man, I could go to Scott and ask him anything. And, I've had employees break down and just need advice. And, you just got to be ready to be like, man, this person, he needs it. I need to be ready at all times. I can't be just a tyrant at work, so really I just try to be a example and a witness to him. My brother, he goes to church with me. Like, he's the reason why I moved here. And, with us being both here and both being, so close to Christ and just, so involved in our church, it's just really, it's grown our business to where it's a thing, but it's hard to explain. It's not plastered everywhere,
I think you've explained it perfectly. And I think we don't have to plaster it everywhere. I think what you said is exactly what we can do. Just love the people right. And it changes everything.
Exactly. You just have to love people. And you got to realize that, man, people just want to be loved. They want to feel love, and they know when it's fake love or if it's, the love of God. You feel it, I mean, for me, I just try to be there for them, and I try to just, always be in the love of God and just be ready,
Well, I know from people around, you're doing it. So I'm grateful for that. So
thanks, man.
Last question really, Scott, is after going through all that you've been through and what you're in the middle of, would there be a new business you would start?
Ooh,
would you want to start something again?
I mean, if Skinny's nosedived or something, yeah. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't know of any other way to live life, like I love owning a business. It's great. I mean, if I had to, of course I would take a job and work somewhere. And, I'm not, I would hope at that point, I'm not above that, I think you always have to be okay with that. I think it helped that I worked full time starting my business. You have to be okay with that, being a business owner and someone seeing you, selling parts somewhere, or when I worked at Barefoot Market, like you got to be okay with that. Maybe people like that. They don't mind. I don't know what I'd start, but I'd love to start something. I really would. I mean, I don't want to go work somewhere else, but I would.
Yeah. No, that answers the question, because I know, that's why I know you're a real entrepreneur, because that's what you would do. You would start something first. So
yeah, I just don't know another way, it's
right.
just, and I've probably started 3 or 4 businesses, and this is the one that stuck,
Yeah.
You got to be okay with failure. You just have to.
Well, Scott, I can't thank you enough. I'm serious when I think we have all received a bit of a business degree, and there's so much treasure in here. So I'm just grateful for the time and your open and honesty with some like big struggles you've been through, and we're cheering for you, and going to look forward to seeing what will grow and what will happen through Skinnies. So thank you, Scott.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me on. And like I said, I'm anxious to hear all these episodes. I think it's a really cool thing y'all are doing. So I'm pumped to be a part of it.
Well, I appreciate it.
Hey, this is Micah. Me and Josh would like to thank you for joining us in the Storyfield today. We hope you've enjoyed our discussion, and to learn more about us and the Storyfield, visit thestoryfield.com. This podcast is sponsored by the Allen Firm, legal guides for many of life's situations. To learn more about the Allen Firm, visit allenlawfirm.com. Have a blessed day, week, and year, and we will see you next time on the Storyfield.
This is Josh again. I just wanted to thank you for listening and let you know that this podcast is really about hope and about giving you hope for your life. So if you're listening and you're in a place where you're really feeling hopeless right now, or if you do not know Jesus, we have some great news to share with you and would love a chance to pray for you. Email us at hope@allenlawfirm.com. That's hope@allenlawfirm.com, and we'll reach out to you soon. Thank you for listening. God bless you.